Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Wendy Schneider, and I'm the coordinator of the 2025 Hamilton Jewish Film Festival, as well as the editor of the Hamilton Jewish News. With me on Zoom is Yair Qedar, the director and producer of the movie you just saw, Outsider Freud. Welcome, Yair. It's wonderful to have you with us today.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm very happy to be here.
So, Yair, you are best known in Israel for being the creator of this incredible series called Ha'ivrim, the Hebrews, which is a series of, to date, 19 documentaries, biographical documentaries of Israeli and Jewish writers. I believe your first film in the series was in 2011 with The Five Houses of Leah Goldberg. And since then, you've covered every famous Israeli author one can think of. Uh, you broke ground in 2021, I believe, by doing a documentary about Aleph Beit Yehoshua while he was still alive, which really broke tradition of the series where you normally cover um, Israeli luminaries who are no longer alive. Unfortunately, he died shortly after your film. And then, of course, a couple of years ago, you decided to branch outside of Israeli literature and take on these incredible uh, Jewish luminaries, Spinoza, Marx, and Freud. So, can you say something about what made you decide to branch out in that way? What was your vision?
Surely. First of all, I would like to thank you, Wendy, for your long-standing friendship with the Hebrews Project. You know, when I map the world, the festival, a map in the world, and I have a new film, so you are one of the first people that I will contact, and I really appreciated the fact that you're such a friend of the project, which is a really big project. You know, it's 19 films, 19 biographies. I produced all and directed about half. And other films, I invite directors to direct. So about 7 years ago, I got a phone call from the Israeli television, public television, and then said, "Would you make a film about Spinoza? Is he part of the Hebrews?" And I said yes, because you never saw no to offers from television. And then they say, "Would you do Marx and Freud?" And I did, and then I embarked on the voyage of making the films, especially Freud, which I also directed. And the work on this film took 5 years. This is the hardest film I've ever done, because the bookshelves, the books written about Freud, that no one in modern era was have so many things written about. So the literature is vast. Moreover, I think we are all part of Freud's matrix. When we think of ourselves, our mind, we think through Freudian notions. We all have meaning to our childhood and to our dreams. We all have subconscious. So Freud is everywhere. And I had to enter a film of something that is like very much common knowledge, and it's a very challenging thing to make a film about someone that everybody's part in partnership with, cognitive partnership, cultural partnership with. And it took me 3 years to find the concept, and the concept, I think, is divided to four parts, as you saw. And it has also some contemporary echoes. It was edited mostly after October 7th.
Ah, okay. Say more about that.
All right. I wanted to make the film in the beginning about the ego. 1923, Freud writes an article, The Ego and the Id, the Ich and the Id. And I thought in 2023, I'll make a film about 100 years birthday to the ego. How ego is reflected in social media, the return of the plague. Then we had the Spanish flu, now we had COVID. But then as the months went by, I thought this is the ego that I thought of making the film about. This is not Freud's ego. This is the superego. This is not an important theoretical term for Freud. And nobody wants to hear about COVID. We have other things that bother us. And then Eran Ronik, who's in the film, suggests you, why don't you try the sofa, the couch? Then I studied psychoanalytic treatment for 4 times a week. And then the idea of the overcoming of Freud came to the world. how Freud is dealing with challenges, how he reinvents himself. And the film is about the overcomings of Freud. You see, in every chapter, there is an overcoming. In the first chapter, the overcoming over the Jew, his Jewishness. The second chapter, the overcoming of his father's death and inventing psychoanalysis. The third chapter, which is the most influenced by October 7th, is Freud dealing with death. Not writing theoretically about this, how did he deal personally with this multiple deaths that surrounded him? His daughter, his grandson, and his mother. And in the first chapter, how Freud overcame his life and, mercy killing. Yes. Took his own life with a deal that he made with the doctor already in 1923. So, the shadow of death, dealing with death, what's the meaning of death for Freud? This is became more the subject of the film. And also the interconnectedness between his writing and biography and his actions that fascinated me in the making of the film. Which this was eventually it became the most interesting film to do. And I'm sorry that I had to end the production and send it to the world.
Is that so interesting that of all the films that you've made, you found this one the most interesting to create?
The most interesting to create, also because the artistic voyage became a psychological voyage. I had to enter myself in order to make the film. I had to work with my dreams, with my fear, with my identification. I didn't like Freud in the beginning, so it took me several months to get close to him. And also there was like autobiographical layer here, because Freud, in a way, was becoming, in the many months of making the film, sort of a father figure for me, but also reminded me of my father. My father died 10 years ago, and he was an archaeologist. The age of 40, he made his hobby a profession, and he became a non-archaeologist. And in his office in Jerusalem, he left us to Jerusalem, divorced my mother, and he had the office with red carpets full of smoke and a collection of statues that was looking at me when I was a small child.
Wow, that's
You know,
incredible.
and I grew up in a house full of dogs. So it was the reflection of my past and my biography. So it is, in a way, this is my Freud. So I had to overcome my resistance to Freud to find the person behind the Freud, behind the image, which I found in his letters. Yes, and to develop sort of friendship communication and warmth towards him that allowed me to make the film.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, I'm curious about the title. What made you come up with that, The Outsider? In what way was Freud an outsider?
So this is a paradoxical name. So you can see also the complete contrary is also true. Freud is the immanent insider. There's the establishment, psychological establishment, scientific establishment, but also I said we're all living in the grid of Freud, so he's inside of all of us. But I found this fascinating letter, which I put in the beginning of the film, the writing in the train, also 7th October style. Yes, he rides the train as a young man. Someone says, "Close the window, you dirty Jew." Now let's analyze this moment. How did people recognize that he's a Jew? That's a question.
Mm.
Second, he was, strong enough to say, "I will not close the window." There was a space for vast anti-Semitism, but also a space for resistance. And then, authority comes. The conductor says, "You must close the window." And he closes the window. When he continues the letter, this is not in the film. He writes to Martin, "In the past, I was very moved by it. I was very troubled by it. But now it's okay. I came into terms with it. It doesn't bother me at all." And I was very, very suspicious towards this statement. As a Jewish man, as a gay man, I thought, would I ever come to terms with someone calling me a dirty Jew, a dirty Israeli, or a dirty queer? Never. So I thought this is, a crack which I can enter how Freud denies something. Yes, this is position of an outsider. And also I thought, Freud in Judaism. He had to come into terms with to reject some kind of Judaism in order to become successful. So, he forbids Martha to have any Jewish ceremonies in the house. Only after his death, she lights Shabbat candles. Amazing, right? So, and in the beginning of, the psychoanalysis, all the first psychoanalysts are Jews that meet every Wednesday in the house of Bergasse 19. It's called Bnei Brit. Nothing is more Jewish than that.
Right.
And you understand that if it will remain so, there will be no success stories. They will become Jewish science. It will ruin his life's work. So he has to de-Judaize psychoanalysis. That's what he does. He brings Jung into the picture. He wants to be universal. When he has, the complex, Oedipus complex, he takes from the Greek culture, not from the Jewish culture. It takes from Athens, not from Jerusalem, from Rome.
That's so interesting.
He has to reject it, but all the time he keeps his loyalty to the Jewish community. He said, I will never deny the fact that I'm Jewish, not a practicing one, a secular one. And he says, what does it mean to be a secular Jew without God? I don't know. He says, I don't know. And in the end, denying, fighting with it, not coming into terms, comes the deportation, running away from the United States. So the reality knocks on the door of Freud and says, you are a Jew. As 7th October did to all of us. All of us has to renegotiate what it means to be Jewish in this present, in this world.
Do you think it would have been a different film if you had done all of that editing and that there had been no October 7th? How much? Yes. Okay. Really?
Yeah. Because, the first question that I was always asking myself is what do we all want to know? We want to get closer to Freud, to touch him, to who is that person? He's an amazing person. But also more than that, we would want to hear what Freud would say about, tell us now, this wisest Jewish man, what was it about? How would analyze, give us some comfort. That's what is going on right now. So that was all the time in the back of my mind, and that happens in the film.
Well, with that one quote about the
illusion.
The illusion, yeah, and you wanted. I have it written down. Much of my life has been devoted to trying to shed illusions, but if there is an illusion worth believing in, at least partially, this is the illusion that we learn how to divert the impulse of destruction from our own kind, how to stop hating each other because of trivial differences, and stop killing each other for profits. That we stop taking advantage of the achievements of progress to control the forces of nature in a way that will lead to our destruction. Without this illusion, what future awaits us? So you think this is what his message would be for us today?
Well, Freud would not want to be considered a prophet. He would say there are no prophets. But if there are prophets, this is the prophecy of Freud. But look how the letter begins. He said, I belong to the people that in the Middle Age were accused for all the plagues. It's coming back. And then the letter continued the illusion. And what was interesting, I worked in 3 languages. In the German, which I do not speak, English translation, and Hebrew translation. And this letter, in both English and Hebrew, didn't have the word illusion. It had the word hope. Interesting. It's a different context if we give it at hope. It's more optimistic. But then toward the end of the film, I had the sound recording in Vienna. And the Austrian sound technician said, in German, this is no hope. This is illusion. So we get more Freud. Yes, the realistic and no mercy,
Right.
scene of the world, the illusion. But I think it is prophetic, and it shows his intuition and its amazing senses, and it is a message of hope that we should all hold hands together and take the illusion. There's no alternative to the illusion.
Right. No alternative. Absolutely.
No alternative.
So all of your films are known for their creative use of animation. And in this film, it was particularly dreamlike, of course, because it's Freud. and riveting. And I understand after doing some research that you collaborated with this brilliant Israeli animator, Tal Kantor, whose short animated film Letter to a Pig was nominated for an Oscar last year. Can you talk a little bit about the creative process working with her and how she, and I assume you had an input into it, came up with all the incredible animated features of this film?
But actually, there's two kinds of animation in the film. So the first one, which is not connected to Tal Kantor, is Moshe Zilbernagel, is a reconstruction of the room,
Right.
the study of Freud. Now, this room does not exist. It's an empty space in Vienna when you had the Freud Museum because it was deported by the Nazis. All the belongings are in London. So it's an empty room. But in 1938, a New York photographer, Jewish photographer, Engelman, took 140 photographs of the room. So we could put them together and know how the room looked like, and we can reconstruct it in 3D realistic animation, but we didn't know what the color is. And one of my visits to the Freud Museum in Vienna, something fell from the wall, and you could see the color behind it, which was dark red, and then we can colorize. And we of the room, the legendary room, 78 years, the birthplace of psychoanalysis in this space. And the other kind of animation was with Tal Kantor. So I wanted, there's so many pitfalls in doing a film about Freud, and certainly doing, creating Freudian dreams is a pitfall because so much of modern art and films are dealt with it, and some of the most talented people in the world. Surrealism is sort of dealing with Freud. So how do I compete with Dali? Okay. So for
Exactly.
this, I needed to contact Tal Kantor, which is amazing artist. But then also the dreams that you saw in the beginning of each chapter and in the end of the film is not coincidental. It's not a fruit of imagination. They are taken from unknown dreams of Freud, which I found in the interpretation of dreams. There are some very known ones, which he solves and interprets, and there's some dreams that are like a series of weird episodes. I went to the train, and there was an old man with one eye, and took me to the urinals. I went in the train, and people were laughing at me and pointing at me because I had a flower here. But maybe it's like the yellow ribbon.
Yeah.
Uh, I went to the train station. There was a gypsy. You don't say gypsy. It was a Roman woman sold rotten fruits. So I took these episodes from the complete unconscious of Freud. He didn't even bother to explain what we are seeing here. And with Tal, I wrote, like 5 paragraphs, shortened dreams. And from these dreams, we created, I wrote and she directed those scenes, which are representing the unknown dreams, the unconscious of Freud. And for this, I added the master image, which is the train. I chose the image, which is, it engulfs all. It's also in the dreams. It's also instruction for for the patients, for the people that are in the psychoanalysis. Yes.
Pretend you're on a train. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But also, now it's like AI. Before we had, computers, and we had trains, cars. In Freud's time, it was trains. Trains was changing the shape of Europe completely, and he dealt a lot with trains. He used to wait for 2-3 hours for each train because he had an anxiety that we'll miss the train. One of his dogs was killed in a train accident, and many dreams of trains, other dreams of trains. And also, he sold like 320 copies of Interpretation of Dreams, and his brother, who was a train engineer, had a bestseller about train rides in Europe. So the train comes from many, many places in Freud's life, so I could have chosen it, but also, we can add so what us as Jews might feel about trains in Europe. So I
Yes.
added, the future history also could be added to this. And as you saw, it was a celebration of the senses, of the subconscious, of the textures, of reds and trains also in aiming at creating some kind of a Freudian experience.
Fascinating. I understand your film was shown at the Freud Museum in Vienna in January.
Yes.
How was it received?
It was amazing because two of the curators. So I had like a test there, and I showed them the film, and then we saw the Freud study. They said, "Stop, stop, stop, rewind, show us again." They work in this field for so many years, but they never saw the room.
Ah,
So it was,
amazing.
very powerful for them to see the world for the first time. They really loved them, and they were so supportive in the making of the film, in the changes of the film, hosting it now, but also collaborating uh, all way of the making of a film. And also this week, I've been informed that in the end of May, the film is going to be shown in the Brother Museum in London. So it's going to be a reception in the garden, and then it's going to be shown in the Freud Museum in London. And I'm so thrilled about this. I love all screenings, but this especially because I feel there's something spiritual about it. I bring Freud back to his home,
Just amazing.
so it's really powerful evenings. And I'm looking forward for the London one.
It's incredible. I also heard you interviewed on a podcast, psychoanalysts and analysis on and off the couch. You were interviewed by renowned psychoanalysis analyst, and he seemed to be just delighted with your film and the insights. Even though he thought he knew so much about Freud, he gained so many insights into him based on what you showed in your film. Can you talk a bit about the unique archival footage that you uncovered for this film?
Yes. First, I would like to mention that the 12 people in the film, each one is there, in the front of Freud research, right? So, Anat Surma-El, the Israeli psychoanalyst, she wrote about how Freud was seen by his patient, how they saw him.
Mm.
Remy Amaro, the French guy from Lausanne, he exposed writings of Marie Bonaparte, which were forbidden for 40 years, and he published a book about it, research about it, just 2 years ago. The wonderful Adam Phillips, editor of Freud writing in English. Chris Filtergel, editor of Freud writing in German. So it's all, the forefront of all Freud worlds, and each one contributed something original and somehow new to the film. So the archives are divided into, as animation, to two departments. First department is for its personal archives. So thanks to COVID, the Library of Congress digitized most of the home movies, and I was able to gain access. I did go there and saw them, but also later it's all public domain. So I had the opportunity to use them for the first time. I think some of them in a film, and we could see, Freud having dinner, playing with his dogs. It's wonderful, wonderful footage. All 90% shot by Marie Bonaparte. This wonderful princess, patron, and friend, and savior. Um, so we have some things that we never seen before. Also, I think this is the first time I saw the mother. So famous, Amalia Freud. First time I saw her in a film. But also, there's another kind of archives in the film. I didn't want to use contemporary archives, and I wanted we feel Freud in his time. But if I would have used like ordinary archives, I would say like Vienna, and I don't know, First World War. So when we see this, we saw it so many times, and then we get detached. So I wanted to have something refreshing that will skip the detachment. So there I found the archives, all these special vehicles that never came, like the circular bicycle, the woman in the circular bicycle, or the dog that uh, bites his leg or hand, and the women at the gym, etc. The people and this I found in a place called Eiffel Museum in Amsterdam, and they had a department for unknown films, unknown shots from unknown directors. So it's like, the unconscious of filmmaking. So this is where we went, and we found queer footage that allowed us to feel again, sense in a way, the environment of where Freud worked and lived.
So creative, so different, so out of the box.
Yeah, we tried.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. Um, I came across a Facebook post that you made um, about this film called "When Freud Smiled." Uh, can you talk about the smile and what part of the film you're referring to?
um, he smiled towards the end of the film with the dogs.
Mm,
Small smile, short smile. But Freud was posing. He had photographers coming over, and he wanted his theory to be important. He was in charge, the head of a movement, international movement. He attacked so many for being weird. So the respectability was very, very important. So all you never see him smile in still photos, right? And you have many, many official ones. The husband of Sophie, his daughter that died, was a wonderful photographer in Hamburg, and he took some of the best shots of Freud. Also, I met his grandsons. I was touched his grandsons. But then in the home videos, there is nobody's guarding the event. So it's really freestyle. It's this princess walking around with her camera, and then you can see, freestyle Freud and really smiling for the first time. The connection to the dogs. You see what a loving father he is, and you also see, in when he talks about the letter of the illusion, he's with his Anna in the beginning, and you see their body language is so warm and loving. That's so great to see. You could not have got that from text or from memoirs.
right.
You see it in your own with, and you have to watch it slowly again and again, and to recognize that it's something other and refreshing. You have to, to slow motion everything, and then
Right.
you start to see. So I've been working with two fantastic editors, Noid Geva and Tommy Schles-Shafrir, which were patient like me or more than me, and a lot of watching and yes, hunting beautiful moments for the film that will
So,
allow us really to get closer. That's all the aim, to humanize Freud, humanize Freud.
so building on what you just said, what is the main takeaway that you'd like audiences to have once after they see this film? What would you like them to walk away with?
I think it's a reacquaintance of Freud. We all have a Freud, so let's, I don't know, not forget what we know about him, but let's go back to him, because it's also like he became a statue, and there is concept, and if it's a life, we have opinions, there are criticism, so it's a big mountain of things, but let's put them aside for a moment. Just look at the person in his time doing what he did, overcoming what he overcame. A brilliant, really brilliant, powerful man that changed all of our lives. So let's just go to the origin,
Mm,
not to the mask. So the developer, the stage after. Let's go to the origin and listen to him for a bit, and everybody can feel what he feels there or she feels there. But it was really ruining the statue and humanizing Freud and being with Freud for a bit. Yes. And rethinking and getting to know him again. It's like you do quality time with one of the people in your family.
right. So for people who want to see more of your films, where can they find them?
So the Hebrews website, so it's ivrim.co.il, and then you have inside a button says English, and everything is in English. The films in Hebrew are free, and it's a pay-per-view in English, so it's all 18 films, and Freud is coming slower. This is one of the rare first screenings of the film that you're attending today. So I'm very happy to share my film with this beautiful community, and I hope when in the future I will get to get face to face to know the community, not only via Zoom. But
We would love
we
that.
will do it.
We would love that. We're so honored to have had the opportunity to show this film and to have spent some time with you today. Yair, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.